Georgia ran away and hid from Tennessee and Dolly Parton and Peyton Manning yesterday, 38-10. The model took a bath on this one. I told you guys last week the model thought Tennessee was going to cover in this game. And before kickoff, the number came down to 9, which meant there was sizable money being bet on Tennessee. And for the life of me, I couldn't see it. I understand progression and regression to the mean. And Tennessee got blown out the week before, and Georgia looked great the week before. And normally there's a little meeting in the middle the following week. I just thought you had one team on the fade and one team surging. And once you get to November, sometimes those are fixed trajectories. And you saw it yesterday. Those were kind of fixed trajectories. Carson Beck is playing outside his mind right now. He was 24 of 30 for about 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and yet again, no interceptions. Carson Beck has 250 passing yards all 11 games this season. Think about how good he had to be this year. When you go over the 2-year rolling NFL draft attrition rate, when you look at what Stetson Bennett was last year, you look at you losing your offensive coordinator and your Heisman finalist quarterback, and so you elevate Mike Bobo, which was met with pretty severe criticism, and no one can find those people anywhere right now. They're on the backs of milk cartons. And then you also elevate Carson Beck, and he's going to be a first-year starter. Normally, that's a recipe for what Penn State's looked like this year. Let's hide our quarterback. Let's ease him into it, and let's just try and run the ball and play dominant defense. Instead, Georgia's featured him. Like, Georgia's throwing the ball all over the place. Georgia's one of the best passing attacks in the country, and they don't exactly have Florida State's receiving core up there either. They got 19. They got Brock Bowers, who once upon a time was thought to be lost until the SEC championship game. Now we're still a week or 2 weeks away from that. It feels like he's been back forever. Again, an alien walking amongst normal human beings, Brock Bowers. And you got Ladd McConkey. Exactly. You've got Ladd McConkey and whomst else. You don't have all Americans littered in that room, but you got a quarterback making them look good. And so that's been impressive to watch. Also, there have been several games this year, including this one, where he had to answer. The Auburn game, he had to answer. Like, they've gotten down several times this year. There's been no room for error. There's been no margin for mistake, and he's gotten it done. The third down statistic just keeps becoming the paper popper, the padlock stat in Georgia games. Yet again, Georgia goes 9 of 13 on third down. Yet again, their opposition, just so happened to be Tennessee here, goes 2 of 11 on third down. And what does that get you? Well, it gets you to a point where I'm willing to mention time of possession on this show. And we don't do that very often. But when you go 41 minutes to 19 minutes, when you go 71 plays to 55 plays, I think that's worth mentioning. Dare I say a padlock stat? It's certainly worth mentioning. So Georgia got through this little gauntlet of theirs. They got through 4 ranked teams so far they've played this year. Their margins of victory have been 38, 35, 9, 28. It turns out none of them met the freeze point. The freeze point on this show means like the minimum baseline quality that a team has to be before they're capable of beating you. So water freezes at 32.4 degrees Fahrenheit. And if it's above that, like if it's 35 degrees, if the water's 35 degrees, you could leave it there forever. It's never going to freeze. Once it gets to 32.4 or below, that determines whether it A, can freeze, and B, how quickly could it freeze. There's only one team in the SEC that meets the freeze point for Georgia, and that's Alabama. And they're going to play them in a couple of weeks. And nationally, I don't know how many there are for sure, but there aren't any in the SEC, aside from the team in Tuscaloosa. And outside the SEC, maybe Michigan, maybe Ohio State, maybe Oregon, or maybe not. We'll see. For all we know, like, listen to me, for all we know, we could be seeing the national championship in Atlanta, Georgia in a couple of weeks. You don't know. You have no idea. I just know that it's felt that way in years past and ended up being that way. So Kirby, yet again, has his team in prime position. Hadn't lost a game, seems like in forever. And so hats off. I don't know what more you can say. They're rolling. They have Georgia Tech this week. And then it's on to Atlanta.